The plan is simple. We get out, Cheong-san said, drawing the attention of everyone in the classroom. Junyoung stepped closer to the four that were seated at a table opposite each other. That would be suicide. We can just stay here till help arrives. Na-Yeon tightened her grasp on his hand. They had talked about it before when she had tried to get him to stay with her in the back room. She had argued that they had more than enough food for the two of them to wait this out for months if they rationed it. He hadn't been very happy about that. That won't work, Cheong-san said, turning to face Junyoung. He could see everyone else was paying attention in the back. We have to face the possibility that we're all that's left here. Sure, they might be others barely surviving the first wave, but if everything is gone, then we need a safer place. He had felt Na-Yeon's grip on his arm tighten momentarily, and he had rubbed the back of her hand. His mother used to do the same for him back in the day. Cheong-san could feel the tenseness leave her body as she sat next to him, her expression not betraying the fear she was feeling. All Na-Yeon was thinking was having to go outside again. Sure, they could move in the school, but she also knew that everyone had been looking outside almost obsessively, whether for friends or for the help that would never come. They had noticed the horde outside only growing. At first, it had only been a few students that had been unfortunate enough to be outside at the wrong time. But as time went on, more and more zombies had shown up. They just concerned themselves with the numbers and did their best to ignore a glaring truth that was gaining more evidence. The city had fallen. So where would we go? Hyo-rung asked shyly. Cheong-san looked around at everyone. He could tell they were scared. He was scared. He was doing his best to not think about what had probably happened in the city. There would be a time for him to think about it. To search. To mourn. Cheong-san, he was pulled out from his stupor, turning to his side to see Na-Yeon looking at him with concern, and he could feel her hand with a vice-like grip on his own. I'm fine, he said, not meeting her eyes, and everyone could tell that was most likely not. No one was, but they couldn't let that slow them down right now. We need to find car keys because I don't think we would make it long on foot out there, he said, receiving nods from Soo-hyuk and Namra seated opposite them. Dae-soo was scratching his head nervously. Who even knows how to drive here? He asked seemingly anyone as he spun in the center of the room. There was no answer from any of them. We just have to figure it out as we go. We have all seen our parents do it. And it's our only option. Taking a run out there is suicide, Cheong-san said. Shenjo walked up to the small group. My dad showed me how to do it once, she said sharply, almost as if ignoring anything else about her parents. She hoped they were okay. Good, that's one part of the plan, Cheong-san said, nodding at her. It seemed like forever till she nodded back. He saw her gaze move swiftly to Na-Yeon and then back to him as she looked over at Soo-hyuk. So what else? Shenjo asked. Everyone turned to Cheong-san, who seemed to once again be deep in thought. But this time no one had to knock him out of it as he looked up at them. Something had been bugging him more and more the longer he thought about it. Soo-hyuk, he said, surprising the other guy from the randomness of it all. What's up? He asked. You told me that you managed to push Gwenom out of the building, right? He asked, just wanting to confirm. He nodded a yes. Yay, we fought for a while, then we managed to throw him out. It was a long way down, and when we looked down he looked dead. That was the thing that was bothering him most. He looked dead, he said to seemingly no one. Soo-hyuk looked to Namra at his side with a raised brow, and she just shrugged her shoulders. I saw him die before. That's why I don't think he's dead, Cheong-san said, looking at everyone. But there was no way that's possible, right? Dae-soo said incredulously. No, it's very possible. He has the same powers as a zombie, right? That means he could still be alive. I saw him die after being eaten by a horde, and yet here he was fighting Soo-hyuk and Namra. That seemed to sink in for everyone. That means he could possess the same abilities as me? Namra said thoughtfully. You have powers? Anjo asked surprised, and Na-Yeon could only blush remembering how she had found out. Yes, I have powers. I think they came with a bite, and if I have them that means Gwenom would have them too. And I don't even know all of them. Everyone in the room knew who Gwenom was. They had seen enough of his work, and from what they had heard he tried to do to Cheong-san as soon as he saw him sent a shiver down their spines. Now that Psycho had the powers of a zombie, they really couldn't catch a break. So that just means we have to keep a lookout for him, just like we have been doing already, Cheong-san said, receiving nods in agreement from everyone. What is that? Namra said as she got up, moving from Soo-hyuk. He quickly got up and followed her as she went to stand in front of the windows. She quickly opened the window and leaned out, and Soo-hyuk along with the others could only watch her as she stood there silently. Namra closed her eyes and listened. She could hear it cutting through the wind, moving fast. Helicopter, she said with surprise on her face as she turned around to face the other with a look of surprise on her face. Helicopter. She said it with a small smile on her face. Everyone was shocked and surprised. Help was coming, or at least it was there. There were cheers as some of the group that was not guarding the door rushed to the window, trying to see if they could catch a glimpse of the helicopter. They waited, and waited, and waited till the noise of rotors started reverberating in their ears. It was in the distance, and it was moving slowly as if looking for something or someone that was still alive in this hell. Hey! We are over here, come over here, please help us. Why are you not helping us? The celebratory shouting soon started to come to a halt as the zombies started banging more loudly and fiercely on the classroom doors and windows. Those who could rushed to block and hold back what they could in case any of the zombies tried to break through. The silver lining of the helicopter had momentarily made them forget the hell they were trapped in, and that had almost led to their ends. They could also hear from how fierce the growling was getting outside that the helicopter hadn't done them any favors, only sending more zombies their way. Why didn't they see us? Hyo-rung asked, the helplessness thick in her voice as she slid down against the wall to the ground. The room went quiet as they didn't want to think that they didn't see them. Maybe they thought we were zombies, Soo-hyuk said, trying to encourage the girl. But the hopeless look she gave him and the punch to the shoulder from Namra told him that he wasn't helping. He's right, Cheong-san said, drawing everyone's attention as Soo-hyuk was rubbing his shoulder, because how the hell could she punch that hard? The zombies outside started to settle, and some moved off, chasing in the direction of where the noise from the helicopter was coming from, giving the group a break to ease their hearts. When he said that they could think we are zombies, that's why we need to get to the roof quickly. It's circling was all Namra said, but everyone knew what she was talking about. What do you mean it's circling? Daisu asked as she went to the window again to listen closely and turned back to them, but Anjo seemed to have the answer. They're doing a standard rescue protocol. My dad told me about it. But that means. She didn't finish as she let the sentence hang for everyone. That we need to get to the roof immediately before